American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away.
Okay, we are recording officially.
All right, let's talk
So
about your colonoscopy.
No more colonoscopy talk.
All right. Never mind. Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy, and that's Joe.
And together, we form History for Jerks.
That's right.
Wonder Twins activate. History for Jerks.
Okay, and today we are going to talk about 1958.
That's true. We are going to continue our blabbing about 1958. We only got through January last time, so we got a lot to cover.
Right.
We're doing a February, March, and
Touch of April.
peek our toes into April.
Just a little green on the grass.
Little tiny peek in April. Just a little gander. Just a little. Just dip a toe into April.
The birds are just starting to peep.
In April.
Right.
So let's get to it, shall we? Because
Sure.
I got a lot of stuff that happened,
All
and
right.
most of it's terrible.
All right, let's hear it.
The 50s were awful. Make America Great Again? Yeah, like the shitty 50s where everybody died because accidents were aplenty.
All right, what?
Starting with February 1st.
Okay.
1958 was a Saturday, and 47 people were killed in the collision of a U.S. Air Force C-118A transport plane with 41 people on board and a U.S. Navy P-2V Neptune patrol plane with a crew of 7.
Oh, boy.
The planes collided over the Los Angeles suburb of Norwalk, California.
Oh, gosh. That's not good.
That is not good. The C-118 plane crashed into the parking lot of the Norwalk Sheriff's Department
Whoa.
at the intersection of Firestone Boulevard and Pioneer Boulevard, and there were no survivors.
I wouldn't think so.
2 men survived the crash of the P-2V,
Oh, really?
which came down in a vacant area at the Santa Fe Springs fire station. A woman in Norwalk was killed 3,000 feet from the C-118 crash site as she stepped outside of her home to see what had happened and was cut in half
Whoa.
by a flying fragment.
Holy shit.
Yes. Can you imagine being that woman? Oh, what's the
So-
whole commotion?
Isn't it
Yoink.
also kind of weird that one of them crashed at the police station, one of them crashed at the fire station?
Isn't that weird? And it was 2 militaries
Yeah.
that weren't speaking to each other, and it was all the services are gone.
Oh, my God.
It was a big fucking snafu, and that poor lady got
Like,
cut in
then-
half.
Then they had to wait for, like, neighboring towns' emergency services to show up because they probably decimated their own by
Yeah.
crashing into it.
Yep, and there's no cell phone footage of this because cell phones weren't around yet.
That's nuts.
Yep. Can you imagine getting split in half by a flying fragment?
It was your time to go.
That would not feel good. Yeah, you're not getting away from this one.
That is a odd thing to happen.
That is a tragedy. We shouldn't laugh about it. February 5th, 1958, the Tybee Island midair collision was another accident on February 5th, 1958, in which the United States Air Force lost a 7,600-pound Mark 15 nuclear bomb in the
Oh my-
waters of Tybee Island near Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, my God. They lost it?
Yeah, a 7,600-pound Mark 15 hydrogen bomb was dropped into the waters off the coast of Tybee Island after the U.S. Air Force B-47 bomber carrying it collided with a U.S. Navy F-86 fighter at an altitude of 35,000 feet. The Air Force emphasized that the bomb was not assembled so that it could not be detonated, and the bomb was never recovered. So again,
Holy
the
moly.
Army and the Navy need to get on the same page here. The Air Force and the
air
Navy.
traffic control
the Air
needs to
Force and the
be
Navy.
invented, maybe.
Maybe they need to invent some air traffic control. I don't know if they do that. I mean, if it's the forces, do they need to
They
listen
have
to
to. You have to have
control?
air traffic control.
Well, apparently
because
not. You can just let balloons fly wherever you want.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Tuesday, February 11th, in notable African-American history, it's Black History Month. Let's get into it, shall we? Ruth Carol Taylor. Do you know what amazing Black history person she is?
I do not.
Ruth Carol Taylor became the first African-American stewardess
Oh.
working on a Mohawk Airlines flight between between New York City and Ithaca, New York. Her career would only last 6 months, though, not because of race, but because she had gotten married, and the airline had a discriminatory barrier on married flight attendants.
That's right.
You couldn't be a married flight attendant.
That's right. I know. Isn't that awful?
Isn't that crazy and bad?
Oh, that was wasn't the half of it with the sexism that stewardesses had.
Well,
to
we can't even
endure.
say stewardess. That's sexism, probably.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
then they called them stewardesses, so that's why we're saying it, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay, good. Just checking to see if you're more misogynistic than I am.
No, that's what they were called at the time.
Yes.
Is what I'm saying.
Me too. That's why I said it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so Ruth Carol Taylor, now you know, amazing, mediocre people in African history. I mean, it's not that she's mediocre,
I
but
was going to say.
but a stewardess is kind of mediocre. But she broke a color barrier.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter how mediocre the job is.
Yeah, right.
To be the first black person to break a barrier.
Well, it just shines
has
a light
got
on.
to be
There's barriers even on mundane jobs that you don't think are that
Right.
great.
But
They still weren't allowed to do it. Like, it's so dumb.
You've got to endure so much abuse
Oh
to
my
be the
God.
first one
Of doing anything.
of any.
Well, just how sad is it? Nobody thinks about that. Somebody
No.
had to be the first African American mail carrier, probably. Like anything you can think of.
Yeah.
That's the most mundane job. Sorry, Rob Shields, postal worker that I know. Not to say it's the worst job ever, but
Right.
I mean, somebody was the first because they weren't allowed to do things. But you don't think about. I don't know. It's just sad.
It is.
But no, so she was amazing. I'm sure.
Yes.
I mean, maybe she was mean or something. Maybe she hurt somebody's feelings once.
What are you
but
talking about?
well, I don't know the person personally, so
I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure
we
Ruth
can-
Carol Taylor, but she broke a barrier.
That's
she
right.
broke a glass ceiling.
That's right.
Is glass ceiling only for women, or is that for everything?
I'm not sure. Not sure on
I
that
always
one.
just equated it with women.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ruth Carol Taylor was probably a fine person. February 16th, 1958 was a Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and a Korean Airlines flight from Busan to Seoul in South Korea with 26 passengers and 2 American pilots was hijacked
Ooh.
by 8 gunmen who had bought tickets for the flight.
Oh.
The airplane was then flown to North Korea, and North Korea released the group to the United Nations officials on March 6th at the border station at Panmunjom, but kept the airplane.
Oh. They did.
Yeah, they kept it.
Wow.
And so that hijacking was the same day
Mm-hmm.
that we have a birthday. Hit it, Matt Truman Ego Trip. Greatest band of all time.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
Stage name
Yeah.
is withheld because you'll know who this is if I say that. So
Okay.
the person's name is Tracy Merrow, and he's an American rapper born in Newark, New Jersey. He was the son of Solomon and Alice Merrow. His father was African American, and his mother, Alice, was from a Louisiana Creole background. For decades, Solomon worked as... When Morrow was a child, his family moved to upscale Summit, New Jersey. The first time race played a major part in his life was at the age of 7, when he became aware of the racism leveled by his white friends towards black children. He surmised that he escaped similar treatment because they thought that he was white due to his lighter skin. When he relayed the incident to his mother, she told him, "Honey, people are stupid." Her advice in this incident taught Merrow to control the wave negativity of others affected
Is
him.
it iced tea?
Yeah, I was just about to say
Oh.
he enjoyed a nice beverage. How'd you know that?
Light-skinned rapper.
Light-skinned rapper who didn't even know. But then this is when things turned tragic for poor Ice-T.
Oh.
When he was in the 3rd grade, his mother died of a heart attack.
Oh, that's terrible.
And so his dad raised him as a single father for 4 years with help from a housekeeper. And his first experience with illicit activity occurred after a bicycle that his father bought him for Christmas was stolen. After
Oh.
Merrow told his father, Solomon shrugged, "Well, then you ain't got no bike." And Merrow stole parts from bicycles and assembled 3 or 4 weird-looking, brightly painted bikes from the parts. His father either didn't notice or never acknowledged this. And then when Merrow was 13 years old, when Ice-T was 13, his dad died of a heart attack.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that awful?
Yes.
So following his father's death, the orphan Merrow briefly lived with a nearby aunt and then was sent to live with his other aunt and her husband in View Park, Windsor Hills, an upper-middle-class black neighborhood in South Los Angeles. And while his cousin Earl was preparing
That's
to leave
kinda
for
like
college...
The Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, he shared a
kind
bedroom
of-
with his cousin Earl. That was a little different than
Yeah.
that. But Earl was a fan of rock music and listened only to the local rock radio station. Sharing a room with him sparked Merrill's interest in heavy metal music. And that's how he got
Oh.
into the music industry, because he loved heavy metal. There you go. A little bit of Ice-T. He's now in the world in our American Timelines universe. Ice-T
Sweet.
is born. And then Monday, February 17th, 1958, the comic strip BC, written by Johnny Hart, and a satire on current events using cavemen and talking animals as his characters, debuted as an offering of the New York Herald Tribune Syndicate.
All
It was
right.
the first BC. Don't you love that comic? Our
Well-
dog is... Why do they always choose squeaky toys when we're recording a podcast?
I don't know.
Hey, give me that squeaky toy. Give me that. You can have it back when the podcast is over. Poor dog. She doesn't understand that
You
we're
know-
recording a podcast. We're recording a podcast. Don't you know? We are History for Jerks. You are a History for Jerks own dog. Okay. February 20th was a Thursday, 1958. And do you know who Nathan Leopold is?
Yes, I do.
Known for what?
Murder with his lover, Loeb.
The 1924 random murder of a 14-year-old boy, right?
Right.
Well, he was granted parole
Oh.
February 20th. The 1924 murder was so long ago, it was more than 33 years in prison. He was 18 when he and another student at the University of Chicago, Richard Loeb,
Richard Loeb, yeah.
they were lovers?
Well, there's speculation.
Oh.
I think Leopold was in love with him. In love with Loeb. Or something.
And Loeb was murdered at the Stateville Correction Center in 1936,
Yeah.
but Leopold was released.
Huh. I should have done that story, I guess.
Yeah. They weren't released till March 13th, but was paroled, I guess, on this 20th. Well, once we get to the 20s, you can do that one.
That's an interesting story.
I don't know if we'll ever get to the 20s.
Yeah, we'll be 85 years old.
And then the
by
last day of February was a Friday. There's the 28th, and more awful tragedy. Ready?
Yeah.
26 students on the way to school and their driver were killed in Floyd County, Kentucky, when their bus ran off the road and slid down a hill into a flooded river in the worst school bus disaster in American history.
Oh, gosh.
Another 16 students survived by escaping through the emergency exit at the rear of the bus
Yeah.
or out of a window.
Oh, my.
So a lot of this stuff is thanks to the New York Times. I got most of the stuff that I've talked about from the New York Times.
Okay.
Because there's like Wikipedia has gone through month by month and pulled stuff out of the New York Times, and
Yeah.
so that's where I got a lot of this.
Okay.
And that brings us to March, where March 11th, according to the New York Times, a U.S. B-47 bomber accidentally dropped an unarmed MK6 atomic bomb, another one, on a farm at Mars Bluff, South Carolina,
Jeez.
5 miles east of the city of Florence.
Oh, my God.
Although there was no danger of a nuclear explosion,
Yeah.
the conventional TNT explosive within the bomb were inadvertently detonated on impact, hurting 6 people.
God.
The United Press News Service commented that it was the first time an atomic bomb was known to have been dropped in the U.S. outside nuclear testing grounds. The explosion demolished the home of the farm owner, Walter Gregg, and injured him, his wife, and 3 children, and a niece. The blast left a crater 75 feet in diameter and 35 feet deep in his yard. The Strategic Air Command issued a statement afterward that mechanical malfunction of the plane's bomb lock caused the 4-jet B-47 to let go of the bomb. So that's just,
Wow.
it's just craziness in 1958.
A lot of
It's crazy world.
disasters.
A lot of crazy bombs dropping and accidents. How about this? Wednesday, March 12th. Do you know who Maurice Stokes is?
No.
He was the 1956 NBA Rookie of the Year.
How would I know that?
Well, because he was a forward for the Cincinnati Royals.
That does not.
They're now the Sacramento Kings. That's one of your favorite teams.
No.
But he suffered a brain injury when he was
Mhm.
knocked down during a 96-89 win over the Minneapolis Lakers before they moved to L.A. So he was knocked down, suffered a brain injury. After being revived, he returned to play, and he finished with 24 points.
Oh, my God.
And 3 days later, he suffered a seizure after a playoff game, was left permanently paralyzed.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that terrible?
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
That's crazy.
Poor guy.
That is crazy.
And according to the Boston Daily Globe, on Thursday, March 13th, 1958, John Aiken of Arlington, Massachusetts, played his first and only National Hockey League game after being called out of the stands at the Boston Garden where he was a spectator. I don't know if you know this. Under NHL rules, I've never heard of this before. Under NHL rules at the time, each team had an employee whose job was to tend goal during practices, be a goaltender, with the added duty of coming in as an emergency goalie during regular games if the goaltender for either team was injured. So in the second period, Montreal Canadiens goaltender Jacques Plante suffered a skull fracture, and Aiden was ordered to substitute. So he had to come in out of the stands and play in the game. Entering when the Boston Bruins were leading 1-0, Aiken made 12 saves, but 6 goals got past him, and Boston won 7-3.
Boom.
Poor guy. Isn't that
Oh,
a weird
well.
rule? One guy can come in from the audience and play. And then Friday, March 14th, 1958, the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, introduced for the first time the concept of recognition as a gold record for any U.S. music recording that had achieved at least, you know what the number is? What the sales you have to release?
To have a gold
to
record?
achieve? Yeah.
Oh, $1 million?
$1 million, yes.
Okay.
Yep. It certified the 45 RPM recording by Perry Como of Catch a Falling Star as the first RIAA measured gold record. So now you know, Perry Como.
That's not that much of a feat anymore. Like
Not
back
anymore,
in the 50s.
but back then, $1 million,
That's what I'm saying. Back then, yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Gold records aren't great. Now they go platinum and triple platinum. And
Right,
quadruple
right.
platinum, and I've lost track of the money. Yeah, so there you go. Boom. Previously, record labels had presented gold and silver awards to their own artists.
Oh.
This was like a standard. So
Mm-hmm.
And then on that Saturday, March 15th, 1958, after scoring 12 points in that NBA game for the Royals, this is when Maurice Stokes was stricken with encephalitis after a severe concussion sustained in the game 3 days earlier, and he lapsed into a coma.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
He would emerge from his coma but be permanently paralyzed and would die at the age of 36 in 1970.
Poor guy.
Poor fella.
Yeah.
Yeah. All because he played basketball. So anybody out there playing sports, stop doing it.
That's right.
A once-in-a-lifetime chance could happen. And then March 17th, 19... Do you think if that guy never played basketball ever or was never interested, he still would have had a stroke doing whatever he was doing? Like, is it your time is your time or not?
I don't know. Because, like, my mom, for example, she's like...
An NBA star?
No. No, she's a health nut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she exercises all the time. She doesn't eat meat. She's a vegan. She's like...
Well, she's in great shape, right?
But she's got all these health problems. Like Crohn's disease and stuff.
Well, I'm sure she doesn't want you telling everybody. Imagine what she would have if she didn't do all that stuff.
Or is it like you do all that stuff and it still doesn't matter?
Something else is going to get you.
Yeah, your refrigerator door's hanging open.
Oh, that's not good. How'd that
No.
happen?
No wonder
Who
it's
opened my
breezy in
fridge?
here. No wonder it's a little drafty, little breezy.
Yeah, it's a little draft. My beer fridge was open.
That's terrible.
That's terrible for the environment.
for everybody.
Yeah, no wonder it's so cold in here.
All right. Anyway.
All right, March 17th, 1958.
Yeah.
The Vanguard 1 launched in 1958. It's the oldest man-made satellite still in orbit, according to the New York Times. So there you go. And here's the crazy thing. It was the smallest of the first 4 satellites ever released, measuring 6.4 inches in diameter, comparable to a grapefruit. And it weighs about 3.25 pounds. I always thought satellites were huge.
I did too.
I didn't think a satellite could be that small.
Well, maybe
Especially
that's
back
what
then.
those dumb things are that people... Maybe those dumb things that they keep shooting down and stuff, maybe they're just satellites.
Well, I know one of the balloons, there's like some high school class that has a floating ham radio in a balloon, and it's missing. It went missing the same day they shot it
jeez.
down. So I think it's just a ham radio. But boy, those stealth bombers can shoot the hell out of a ham radio.
Right.
March 19th, 1958. South Pacific, the film adaptation of the 1949 Rodgers and Hammerstein stage musical.
Mm-hmm.
Hammerstein?
Rodgers and Hammers.
Rodgers and Hammerstein. It's Stein, right? Now it sounds weird. Hammerstein?
Now I don't know. Now that we're saying it,
I know.
Can't tell. I can't remember.
I've heard that name a million times, and now I can't. Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Hammerstein. I think it's Hammerstein.
Rodgers and Hammerstein.
No, I think it's Hammerstein.
I don't know. Now I can't remember because I said it wrong. Anyway,
We're gonna get some
yeah,
hate
we're gonna
mail.
get hate mail. The film adaptation of South Pacific made its premiere with the debut showing at the Criterion Theater in New York City. Originally, it was almost 3 hours in length, but it'd be edited down to be 2.5 hours for its nationwide release, and it became the most popular film for the year in 1958. Did you ever see that movie?
I have, but it's been a long time. I'm going to watch that man right out of my hair.
I think I either was in it or I think I assistantly directed it at my high school. When I was in college, I went back and helped them direct that.
Right.
And so I watched the movie, so I knew what I was doing. Anyway, that same day that premiere happened, the Monarch Underwear Company fire occurred in Manhattan, New York City at 623 Broadway on March 19th, 1958.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the map, that address now is like a Chipotle, I think. Anyway, 24 people were killed in a loft fire between Houston Street, which looks like it's spelled Houston, but I've been there recently.
Oh, so
it's on the Lower East Side, so I was traipsing all over these spaces. So 24 people were killed in a loft fire between Houston Street and Bleecker Street, and 15 more were injured. 6 of the injured were hurt when they leapt from the building and missed fire nets.
Ouch.
The conflagration began in the third-floor textile printing plant of an edifice in which the workrooms of several businesses were located. 10 corpses were found underneath workbenches on the Monarch Underwear Company on the 4th floor. The fire started at 4:30 p.m. and lasted 1.5 hours. It began in a processing oven of the STS Textile Company.
Man.
Yeah, and that building was located just a few blocks from Washington Place near Green Street, the former locale of the Triangle Shirtwaist Company.
Yep.
And we've talked about that, right? The Triangle Factory fire of March 25th, 1911.
I think we've mentioned it.
145 people.
Yeah.
I don't know why we mentioned that. Something had something to do with that we mentioned.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to do with that.
And then Thursday, March 20th, 1958, New York City Mayor Robert F. Wagner Jr. asked for legislation to prevent fires like the one at 623 Broadway.
Well, good.
Yeah. Wagner and New York City Fire Commissioner Edward F. Kavanaugh both stated that the structure did not violate fire and building codes, so that something needed to be done. Wagner called on the New York City Council to enact necessary ordinances quickly. Among those he suggested were the installation of automatic fire sprinkling systems. Stop! Hey, stop wrestling!
Be quiet, Weezie.
The installation of automatic fire sprinkling systems. The building of fireproof partitioning walls and lengthy rooms, the construction of full ceilings and loft buildings, and making it mandatory that each worker be given a fire drill. Obviously, some people didn't know what to do because they didn't have fire drills, so they hid under their desks from fire.
Oh, really?
That's why they found all those corpses under desks.
Oh, the poor guys.
And that was the same day that Holly Hunter was born, American film actress and Academy Award winner.
Okay.
And you have to guess what city
No, I do not.
in Georgia that she was born in.
Macon.
Nope. Starts with a C. And it rhymes with...
Chlamydia.
No, it rhymes with Fonyers.
What? Conyers?
Conyers, Georgia, yeah.
Okay.
And I only made you do that because I forgot to look up her alma mater.
Oh, thank God.
I know, it's the stuff you hate.
I don't care.
No, I'm not giving you your squeaky ball till the recording is over. These are 2 bad dogs.
They want to be on the podcast today. They both said, we want to be on this podcast right now.
They're bad. Friday, March 21st, 1958.
Mm-hmm.
The existence of a new strain of the bacterium Staphylococcus aureus.
Staphylococcus.
Staphylococcus aureus.
Mm-hmm.
That was resistant to penicillin
Staph infection.
and other known antibiotics, staph infection, was announced by the U.S. Public Health Service.
Oh.
A new antibiotic, methicillin, will be discovered in 1960 as effective against the new strain, but at this point, we don't have that.
Ooh.
And that would be later matched by another strain, methicillin-resistant staphylococcus, which is MRSA. That's what
Yes. That's what
MRSA is.
MRSA,
Methicillin-resistant staphylococcus
Mhm.
aureus. I didn't even know what MRSA ever stood for. I didn't understand, but now you know. I only explained all that so we knew what MRSA meant.
All right.
And then that same day, so this isn't American, but I had to include this because this is crazy.
Okay.
On top of all this other shit that was going on, a fire in the Egyptian town of Damat Kutur
Mm-hmm.
killed at least 16 people and seriously injured another 11 after starting in a small hut with a straw roof. And then being
boy.
spread, the fire was spread by pigeons who had been on the hut's roof.
Oh, gosh.
Flying in agony on fire, a United Press report noted, the birds acted as flying torches, setting fire to the straw roofs of hundreds of other huts.
Oh, Lord.
Isn't that crazy?
That is.
That same time, while that was happening, bulldozers and helicopters were able to end a 36-hour crisis at a small restaurant on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, where more than 800 travelers trapped by a blizzard were crowded in a restaurant that had a capacity of over 100.
So
800 people
again.
stuck in 100
Oh, my gosh.
because of a blizzard. A traffic jam of over 1,000 cars, buses, and trucks caused by 42 inches of snowfall
you
on
fucking
a Wednesday
imagine?
night
Can
have
you
stalled
fucking
on a
imagine?
14-mile stretch of the highway and had made their way to the only shelter available, a Howard Johnson's restaurant.
And there was 800 fucking people there.
In a 100
Oh.
size restaurant. And it was
Like,
the only place
wouldn't
you could
be
be.
able to sit.
Snow everywhere.
You
Yeah,
probably would have
everybody's
to
just
standing room only.
yeah, it'd be awful. Just everybody's just huddled together.
Yep.
There's nothing you can do. You have to wait for helicopters and bulldozers.
That would
it
be
was
my
36
nightmare.
hours. 36 hours.
I go back outside.
Oh, you had to take turns going outside. I bet people pee and poop outside.
Oh.
And while the Egyptian pigeon burning
Yeah.
was happening and that was happening, while both things were happening, English film actor Gary Oldman was being born in London. So
All right.
everyone can remember Gary Oldman's birthday with that. And every time you see a Gary Oldman movie, you will think of pigeons on fire burning down huts while 800 people are stuck in a 100 capacity
Howard Johnson.
in the snow. There you go.
All right.
There's an earworm for you. Remember that, everybody. March 22nd, 1958. Mike Todd, you know who he was? Successful film and theatrical producer, Mike Todd.
I don't know.
He was married to...
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes!
That's right.
How'd you know that?
I remember the name
You're
now.
a genius. You're a gorgeous genius.
No.
Anyway,
I'm not.
he was killed on this date
Oh.
in the crash of his Lodestar twin-engine airplane, along with his biographer and screenwriter Art Kahn, who was 48 years old. And then pilot Bill Werner and co-pilot Tom Barkley were also killed. The overloaded plane was flying Todd back home to Hollywood after his promotional visit to Albuquerque, New Mexico, when it suffered an engine failure and crashed near Grants, whatever that is. Anyway, we're getting there. We're getting to April. We're getting to Amy's big story. March 23rd, 1958 was a Sunday, and the University of Kentucky Wildcats won the NCAA basketball championship, defeating the Seattle University Chieftains 84-72
Who cares?
at the finals at Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. Despite being on the losing team, Seattle's Elgin Baylor was voted the game's most valuable player. And on March 24th, that Monday, 9 of the 24 people on the Braniff Airways Flight 971 were killed when it crashed shortly after taking off from Miami on a flight to Panama. The 4-engine Douglas DC-7C propeller-driven airplane experienced an engine fire and returned to the Miami airport for an emergency landing. But the burning wing ripped loose, and the plane crashed into the Everglades and burned in a marsh more than 4 miles from the runway.
Oh, my God.
An investigation later blamed the crash on the failure of the captain to maintain altitude during an emergency return to the airport due to his undue preoccupation with an engine fire following takeoff.
Oh, God.
I think that's pretty due preoccupation.
I'd say so.
The loss of the airplane's wing, which
I thought they were going to say, like, he was looking at a porno magazine.
No, because he was, oh man, the engine's on fire and he's freaking out. Well, of course he was.
Yeah.
The loss of the airplane's wing, which fell 50 yards from the cabin, proved to be fortunate. Survivors told investigators that all aboard might have been killed had that flaming wing not ripped off loose from the plane, they all would have been engulfed in flames.
Oh my God.
And also the Everglade marshes helped absorb the shock of the impact. Yep.
Wow.
And on that same day that happened, after being drafted, popular American singer Elvis Presley was inducted into the U.S. Army as a private for a 2-year tour of duty. That's
right.
And you want to guess what his serial number was?
No, I'm not guessing that.
It was 533-1076.
What? 4.
1. No, 1, duh. You don't even know Elvis's serial number?
Okay, moving on.
Fan are you?
Moving on.
Okay, we'll move on. Wednesday, March 26th was the 30th Academy Award ceremony. The motion picture, The Bridge on the River Kwai, won 7 Oscars.
Wow.
Best Picture.
Wow.
And I watched that movie and I didn't care for it.
It was boring, right?
I was bored because now we have Marvel.
Right.
And then we got one more birthday and then you can jump in on your thing, right?
Okie doke.
Friday, March 28th. The son of professional wrestler Larry the Axe Hennig. This guy was born and was childhood friends with fellow wrestler Rick Rude, as well as Paul Schulte of Manchester, Vermont, who was also known as Mr. Perfect. They attended Robbinsdale High School in his hometown of Robbinsdale, Minnesota, alongside Tom Zank, Brady Boone, Nikita Koloff, John Nord, Road Warrior Hawk, and Barry Darso, who was Smash, from Axe and Smash. They all became pro wrestlers. Who is it? Larry Hennig's son,
know.
Mr. Perfect.
Listen.
Blank Hennig.
What?
I gave you his last name is Hennig. His
How
nickname
am I
is
supposed
Mr.
to
Perfect.
fucking know? How do I know?
You don't know who Mr. Perfect is?
No.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig?
No.
He was perfect. He would spit his gum out and be able to swat it into the air.
That is so stupid.
He could play tennis really good.
That's stupid, too.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. He was the master of the perfect plex. He was born. Happy birthday, Mr. Perfect. Rest in peace, also, Mr. Perfect, who, as Macho Man Savage said in his rap song, he's a perfect friend.
You're ridiculous.
Macho Man made a rap song about Mr. Perfect.
Oh, my God. Somebody twist my neck right now, please.
Twist your neck?
Twist it off.
Twist his dick!
All right.
The old dick twist. All right. And that brings us to April 4th, 1958, where Amy,
it's going to tell us tale.
beautiful Amy, is going to tell us about, let me guess, a killing, a murder.
All right. I wonder if I need to take a...
You need to take a breather first? Take a little dumperoo first?
Yes, let me take a
Drop a
minute
couple
here.
deuces first?
Hold on, I need to... I was going to...
And our listeners, while Amy goes to poop, like really just
Don't
fill
say
our
that.
toilet
I'm not
nasty.
That's not what I'm doing.
Oh, you're not?
No.
You're going to do a cartwheel break? You do a cartwheel break and I'll do a worm break. I'm going to do the worm. While we are taking a break, our listeners can listen to this awesome ad.
Hey nerds, check out the Gruff and Loud show on YouTube.
You got a kid.
That's what you think.
I forgot to tell you. Remember that time you banged Shannon Doherty?
You
got her pregnant. You got her pregnant, bro. Kid's 26 now.
Well, I'm glad. The kid's probably doing all right.
No, he's not. He needs you. He needs a father.
Well, I was a donor, not a father.
No. He needs a real father to step up and teach him how to fish.
Well,
And if you can teach him how to fish, you will have successfully raised him. You have 30 minutes. Here he is. Teach him how to fish. 30 minutes.
Minnows work better than worms.
Oh, you did it. Hooray. You have successfully fathered Shannon Doherty's child. Congratulations.
Achievement unlocked.
Bing, 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 bing. Confetti, streamers, fireworks.
Retirement.
What's happening? What are we talking about?
Check out the Gruff and Loud show on YouTube.
And we're back. We are History for Jerks, and we are back. You thought we weren't coming back. You thought the podcast was over, but guess what? We are back. While I have you here, listeners, before we get started, before we finish up this episode, I want to tell you guys what you can expect when you start taking Magic Mind. Day 1, you feel an elevated sense of energy and a sense of calm focus within an hour of taking Magic Mind. They don't rely on massive amounts of caffeine like other energy shots because caffeine is counterproductive for optimal focus. Did you know that? You don't expect to be wired, expect to be dialed in. You can expect to feel 50 to 60% of the benefits on day 1 as the ingredients go to work. But day 2, you can feel about 75% of the effects. And you'll notice that you don't need to reach for that afternoon caffeine boost anymore. And then on day 3, you'll feel 100% of the benefits now that nutrients like cordyceps mushrooms and ashwagandha have started to reach full effect. I'm telling you, you got to check it out. Check out Magic Mind, and you yourselves can do this cheaper than everybody else in the world using American timelines as your way to get a deal. All you have to do is go to www.magicmind.co, that's co/American. The link is in the description if that's too long for you. And you can get up to 56% off your subscription. You get up to 56% off the subscription for the next 10 days with my code, American20. Okay? You think it's going to be 20% off, but no, it's 56% off because the Magic Mind people kick ass. Check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed.
All right.
Oh, and you know what?
What?
I just remembered. This is episode 200.
Is it really?
This is our 200th episode.
Ooh, ooh.
And it's special for you guys for our 200th episode. Amy's going to take her top off.
Untrue.
All right, I'll take my top off.
What's new?
Oh, yeah, I do a lot of shirtless podcasting. So that's not different. Well, what can we do for our 200th episode?
Let's have dogs on the podcast.
Our special 200th episode guests are dogs. So I'll give her the squeaky toy back. There's our dogs. They can't wait to squeak it.
All right.
That's our special 200th episode.
I'm going to... Hold on. There's a hair.
She's going to be squeaking that throughout. Why did I give that to her?
Why did you give it to her?
All right, I'm going to take it back away. She's got another one.
Where's the other one?
Right here. She wants the squeaky one, though. And so does a little guy. He wants that, too. Weezie and Ralphie are bad dogs, but they're babies, and we love them.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to discuss the murder of John Stompanato Jr.
You know what I just thought of before you get into this John Stompanato Jr. bit?
Yeah.
When we started this podcast, our dogs were Stella and Floyd.
Yeah.
We lost both of our dogs and got 2 new dogs
I know.
as long as we've been doing this podcast.
Oh, my God. That's crazy. Okay.
And you know what?
Can I talk now? Or can you
It's
shut the fuck
it's like
up
our
now?
5-year anniversary, too,
It is?
of doing this podcast.
Really?
200 episodes in 5 years.
Holy shit.
That's not a very good rate.
That's fine. All
But
right.
it's fine. Thank you, listeners, for listening. 200th episode.
Get your tits out. Get your tits out.
We have to do something to celebrate. That's what we did.
All
okay?
right.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about a murder for our 200th episode. John Stompanato.
Yeah. So he was born to Italian-American parents in Illinois.
You're only talking to the microphone sometimes.
Okay.
There you go. Into the microphone. Thank you. Go ahead. Say that again.
He was born to Italian-American parents in Illinois.
Okay.
He was sent to a military academy. Then he joined the Marines in 1943 and saw action in the Pacific Theater of World War II.
Oh, Pacific Theater.
Then he was discharged in China.
Okay.
China.
I have to
China.
say it like that.
As Trump says,
Yeah.
China.
China.
He met Sarah Udish, who was a Turkish dressmaker.
Sarah Udish?
Yes.
How do you spell Udish?
Utush.
Udish. Okay.
I don't know.
She's a dressmaker?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so he converted to Islam for her.
He met her in China?
Yeah.
China. Okay. Then he converted to
Islam for her,
to
and they
Islam.
got married in May of 1946.
Okay.
He briefly ran a seedy nightclub. Then he abandoned his wife and newborn about a year later.
Aww.
So then he moves to L.A., where he found work with Meyer Mickey Cohen, the infamous L.A. mob kingpin. Stompanato acted as the mobster's bodyguard and pimp. So, meanwhile, he had a thing for starlets. He had a big boner for starlets. And
Doesn't everybody have a big boner for starlets?
And soon, he set his sights on the most international superstar of the time,
Okay.
Miss Lana Turner.
Ooh.
So she had first become famous when she was discovered by an agent while skipping class at the Top Hat Malt Shop in Los Angeles in 1936.
Oh, really?
Over the next 15 years, she became one of Hollywood's most coveted sex symbols. When Stompanato met Turner around 1957, she was in the middle of filming a movie.
Okay.
One of her previous projects had flopped, and she has just been divorced from her fifth husband.
Okay.
So under the alias John Steele, Stompanato courted Turner on set. He would leave her phone calls and letters, flowers, jewelry, and he even had a portrait made of her.
Really?
So she eventually learns who he is, because he wouldn't sign any of this stuff, except for John Steele. She knows who that is.
But yeah.
So eventually she figures it out, and she's confronted by him. And he tells her, if I'd revealed who I really was, you would not have had anything to do with me. Now that I have you, I'll never let you go. Mm. So she ends up going ahead to date him.
Okay.
Even though she has some reservations.
She's a little weird.
She ends up paying for his living expenses and his gambling debts. She introduced him to her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, the child of her second marriage to restaurateur Stephen Crane.
I didn't realize she would have been married to Stephen Crane.
Well, this is her fifth divorce, so she's been married quite a few
Turner
times.
just can't find the right one. But maybe this guy's the right one, finally.
Johnny Stompanato was often violent with Turner and reportedly abused her during the frequent arguments while Crane watched. Stompanato once even threatened to
Crane, the child.
Yeah.
The child Crane.
Yes.
Yeah.
He once even threatened to mutilate Turner's face and torture her daughter.
Yikes.
It took less than a year for Turner to decide that her gangster wasn't a good long-term prospect.
Yeah, don't date a gangster. Come on.
So she goes to England to film the romantic drama Another Time, Another Place with Sean Connery, who was kind of a newcomer at the time.
Not a fan of the ladies, are you, Trebek?
She thought she finally had a chance to cut Stompanato out. So he refuses to accept her rejection, though.
Okay.
And he's furiously jealous of these rumors that Connery and Turner are having a thing.
Well, why wouldn't you bang Sean
So
Connery?
he flies to London. And when he gets there and she refuses to see him on set, he marches to the studio anyway, where he points a gun at Sean Connery's chest.
Sean Connery?
So as the story goes, Connery,
rapist.
who was an ex-Royal Navy sailor and bodybuilder,
I was going to say, you don't fuck with Sean Connery.
he reflexively twisted the pistol out of Stompanato's hand and punched him in the nose.
Yeah, go Sean Connery. That's cool.
So Stompanato ran off before the police got there.
Take that, Trebek.
So his rage reportedly reached a boiling point on the night of the 1958 Academy Awards when Turner refused to bring him as her date.
Okay.
So
Which I talked about. I just talked about that.
That's
where,
right.
Bridge on the River Kwai won everything.
According to court proceedings, Turner planned to cut Stompanato off for good on the night of April 4th and warned Crane that the evening would be a tough one. Stompanato came over to the house only to have Turner allegedly tell him, "Tonight, mister, I'm giving you your walking papers. I'm through with you. It's over."
These boots are made for walking.
So he gets in, flies into a rage.
Yeah?
Threatens to murder Turner along with her mother and
She shoulda
Cheryl Crane, who overhears the fight from her upstairs bedroom.
She should have had Sean Connery with her.
In the official courtroom account, a terrified Crane, Cheryl, the little girl,
Yes.
runs downstairs to the kitchen, grabs a butcher knife, creeps to her mother's bedroom door. Opening the door, she mistook a clothes hanger in Stompanato's hand for a gun and impulsively stepped forward and plunged the knife between his ribs.
Good.
Johnny Stompanato was dead within minutes. His
Whoa.
last words were, "My God, Cheryl, what have you done?"
Oh, my God.
So Lana Turner knew how bad her situation looked.
Yeah.
Among the first people she called when Stompanato fell dead in her bedroom was Jerry Geisler, who was the lawyer who Hollywood turned to when it had to escape the consequences of the worst crimes.
Oh, everybody calls Jerry Geisler?
Yes.
Jerry Geisler. He'll fix it.
He had defended Errol Flynn for all the rape charges
Oh,
and had come to
jeez.
the defense of Bugsy Siegel.
I didn't know Errol Flynn had a bunch of rape charges.
Oh, yes.
He's a big rapist, huh?
Geisler's first move was to get Crane and Turner together in a room to coach them through their story.
Yeah.
Rumors have persisted after a friend of Stompanato's decried Crane's ruling in court that it was actually Turner and not Crane who murdered Stompanato because she found him in bed with her daughter.
Oh.
By this account, Geisler would have convinced Cheryl Crane to take the fall for the murder since she was likely to get a lighter sentence as a minor.
Okay.
Both Crane and Turner have only ever maintained the story of self-defense that they told in court.
Okay.
So when Lana Turner took the stand in a, quote, circus-like hearing, her dramatic and anxious hour-long testimony revealed the sordid details of Johnny Stampanato's abuse and violence. Yeah. She appeared sympathetic and desperate, and her daughter devoted and terrified. It took only hours for the jury to return a verdict of justifiable homicide for Lana Turner's daughter, which means she wouldn't
face consequences.
Yeah.
Justifiable homicide.
So she, when she did go to a juvenile delinquency center while this all was going on, and she would escape twice.
Oh my God!
But
poor thing.
then she finally went and lived with her father, Stephen Crane, at his Hollywood restaurant area where he worked and lived and that. So the year after Johnny Stampanato's death, Turner would go on to star in Imitation of Life, the biggest success of her career, before taking a number of roles in theater and television until her death in 1995.
Oh, she lived to the 90s?
Cheryl Crane struggled with addiction before developing a career in real estate and settling down with her wife, Josh Leroy.
But didn't Cheryl Crane also have another career, stage name Sheryl Crow?
No.
No? They're not the same person?
No. Oh. She's always maintained that she alone was responsible for the murder of Johnny Stampanato and for no other reason than to protect her mother from an abusive boyfriend. Yep. And that's the story, Larry.
Wow, I never knew that. I never knew that about Lana Turner and all that. Any of that. I didn't know much about Lana Turner, but...
It's quite a sordid tale.
I don't know much.
Look at how pretty.
Is that Lana Turner or the daughter?
That's Lana Turner.
She is pretty.
She is so pretty.
So do you think she did it?
No.
You think the daughter did it?
Yeah, I don't think she would make her... What kind of mother would ask your child to go to jail for you?
Well, it's not jail. It's just...
Well, it could have been.
Juvie, right?
It could have been. Well, juvenile still. What kind of mother would send, for something you did?
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Well, yeah. All right. Well, good on the daughter, and I hope she's doing well. She's married and happy. And you said she's what is she?
A lesbian?
No.
Oh.
Her job.
Oh. Real estate agent.
Real estate agent. I was thinking lawyer or something.
Oh. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were getting at.
Labeling her as, I didn't care about that part. I was like, what her job was. Yeah. Anyway. But she is a lesbian real estate agent. Yeah. But actually, it's people first language. So a real estate agent who is
a lesbian.
Well, a real estate agent is a person either. A person who is a real estate agent and likes vagina.
No, that's not the
correct.
correct.
Correct say it?
No.
Well, you don't have to even say that. Who cares what they want to bang?
I don't.
I
thought you were saying
like
that.
So who cares? Just kidding, everybody. We love gays. In fact, we are now going to take 15 minutes and name every
And we apologize
gay.
to all the gays
we want to name
for
every
not
gay.
Remembering Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Rodgers and Hammerstein. Right now we know it.
Or is it Rodgers and Hammerstein?
Shit. Rodgers and Hammerstein. Rodgers and Hammerstein.
We apologize to all the gays.
I don't know, gays. Correct us, gay friends. So let's go through. Let's name every gay person.
No.
All of our gay friends.
All right. It's time to get out of here,
Jeff
Chuck Berry.
Stevenson.
Stop. Time to get out of here, Chuck Berry.
Tim Anderson. Okay, get out of here, Chuck Berry. I'm going to name somebody who's not gay. Just to Larry.
The cable guy.
All right. I love everybody. Thanks for sleeping with us for our 200th episode. And if you're in bed right now, listen to us. Let's coax to you sleep. Good night. Sleep tight.
Don't try her, man, 'cause she dead. She take the laser beam and cut like that. Driving through your life like a Buick. Take you the wrong way home just to watch you scrub. She'll leave you inside out with a star. She'll introduce you to a restaurant of water. And you'll be crying for your uncle or mother. Before she turns you over to kiss your womb. So when she shakes her hips,
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music.